We have made it to the third song on the second side of the album Another Side of Bob Dylan, the ninth song on the album overall. Funny enough, it's 4 minutes and 22 seconds, which is exactly how long the previous song, My Back Pages, was. And the important thing here is that it is really nice for me, working slaving on these videos, to get to an easy Bob Dylan song. But as I've said before, it can be really dangerous to assume with Dylan that a simple song is actually simple, which is why we're looking at the cover of the excellent 2009 album Together Through Life, which kicks off with the song Jolene. And I've talked about this before, so I'll be very brief. That song seems as straightforward and simple as possible, and then it turns out it's enormously complicated. Dylan turns out to be playing games within games in there, and it's something all of the professional writers and music critics missed. And we'll explore that hundreds of videos from now if I ever get to Together Through Life. But anyway, I do think today's song is, in fact, just what it appears to be. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. That, of course, being a famous phrase attributed to Sigmund Freud, and at least from my research for this video, seems to be misattributed, not something he ever actually said. But regardless, you don't have to be the father of psychoanalysis and psychology to understand the song I Don't Believe You, She Acts Like We Never Have Met. This little ditty is a classic I'm upset that I've been ghosted song, which, to be clear, is more specific than a general breakup song. And this subgenre, or is it sub-subgenre, is still going strong, as evidenced by our current visual. That song wasn't from this year, but you get the point. And incidentally, is Dylan's song the very first one ever of this very specific type? It's possible if we keep our definition narrow enough. Not sure. Anyway, let's get on to the song. If it is as straightforward as it seems, and I really think it is, then it's pretty simple to explain. Because in it, the protagonist is complaining about how a woman that he either had a one-night stand with, or maybe more of a relationship with, is pretending she doesn't know him. And the song does not do that in a real-time cinematic way. In other words, it's not pulling us into a scene where that is actually what's happening in the moment. No, he's just complaining about it. And that's what he does across 315 words. 5 stanzas that have 11 lines each. As is so often the case, including in our last song, this is not a pop song in terms of construction, it's a poem in terms of construction. The same exact rhyme scheme, which we'll examine, repeats itself precisely in every stanza. But in terms of spirit, this is very much a pop song. I think if he had just made it a demo tape and offered it out there, somebody would have snatched it up and had a hit. And part of that is that this song is not full of dense Dylan verbiage, right, and abstract allusions. Let's get through the first stanza. I can't understand. She let go of my hand and left me here facing the wall. I'd sure like to know why she did go, but I can't get close to her at all. Though we kissed through the wild blazing nighttime, she said she would never forget. But now morning is clear, it's like I ain't here, and she just acts like we never have met. And so the lines are short and punchy, and the verbiage is really simple. And like I said, the rhyme scheme is perfectly consistent throughout all of the stanzas. It, in itself, is not simple. It's a little complex, which makes the song fun. So first 2 lines always rhyme, stand, hand, but then a new sound is introduced, which doesn't come back for 3 more lines. Right, so there's a pair of rhymes, a new sound, a pair of rhymes, and then that, what was new sound, comes back. And that return brings a little bit of a finishing energy every time. There's a completeness there, like it could stand on its own as a small poem, and that's why this, the 6th line of every stanza, forms a break. And then the next line, the 7th, is always a transition line that sets up a big punctuation in the 8th. Then you kind of downshift transition for 2 more lines because another new pair comes in. And the line from the big punctuator, the sound from the big punctuator returns. For instance, the first part of the second stanza, it's all new to me like some mystery. There's that first pair. It could even be like a myth. Yet it's hard to think on that she's the same one, second pair, that last night I was with. So again, that's kind of self-contained. Then the transition. From darkness dreams deserted, am I still dreaming yet? And that's like punctuator, like he leans into it when he sings that line. I wish she'd unlock her voice once and talk, instead of acting like we never have met. What really pushes the song along are those two critical lines, the transition followed by the punctuator that happens every time. I'm not going to go through every line of the song like I usually do, it just doesn't warrant that, even though it is a really good song. So anyway, notice how those two lines work together in the second half of the stanza I'm about to pick on. Though the night ran swirling and whirling, I remember her whispering yet, but evidently she don't, and evidently she won't. She just acts like we never have met. Every stanza ends with a line either exactly like or pretty close to, she just acts like we never have met. So sometimes it's instead of acting like we never have met. You get the point. So the final rhyme that is set up every time is based on that sound. As I've talked about so much, Dill doesn't really do the classic pop song structure. He does sometimes, but there's no real refrain here. It's built into the stanza, but here's how a lot of these end. She said she would never forget. She acts like we never have met. Am I still dreaming yet? Instead of acting like we never have met. I remember her whispering yet. She acts like we never have met. Now, of course, I'm skipping the two intervening lines that you've already heard examples of. And so you get that consistency of sound and that rolling, returning every time that kind of propels things along as well. Whereas every time a stanza starts, you have no idea where it's going to go sound-wise, what the rhyme is going to be like. Guess, confess, today, way, could be anything. And showing this picture of Bob here, well, one, I just need a visual, but also because it looks like he's in his impish mode, and that's the mode he's in this song. Theoretically, it's a heartbreak song, but he's clearly having fun when recording it, and no, that's not just because he was, as we know for a fact, drunk when he was doing it. He even famously, well, famous to hardcore Dylan fans, laughs during this song, this heartbreak song, because he messes up, he misplaces a couple of lines, just trucks on through it, and then uses that take on the album. And that's maybe one of the more interesting things about this fun little song, is the juxtaposition between the content and the style. And this is not a sanctimonious, self-pitying, broken heart song. Oh, we'll get to that later on the album. It's the very next song on the album, Ballad in Plain D, one that he famously regrets. And I always like to try to add a little bit of new insight into Dylan's work, if at all possible, in these videos. And I was thinking for this one, like, how are you going to do that? It's just such a simple number. But here it is. I read everything I could about this song. Has it really not been remarked previously how interesting it is that this song shows up right before Ballad in Plain D? Sequencing songs on an album was a big deal back in the day. And Dylan pairs up a short, funny, wry, bemused take on a breakup with the exact opposite. And oh, by the way, what is that followed by? Yet another breakup song. 3 breakup songs in a row, back to back to back, close out this album. But they're each so different from the others that you don't even really notice that. I mean, you would think that would come off as really excessive and repetitive, but go find an album review that even notices that fact. But back to this song, because it's the one we're on in this video, let's look at the final stanza. We will read that one and show you what he's doing differently here than he did throughout the rest of the song. I'm leaving today, I'll be on my way, of this I can't say very much. But if you want me to, I can be just like you, and pretend that we never have touched. And if anybody asks me, is it easy to forget? I'll say it's easily done, you just pick anyone, and pretend that you never have met. So one, he announces that he's leaving, and that kind of subtly announces that the song is ending. It also is a recurring theme with him in song, where he, as the character in the song, is this person who is now departing, getting back to the open road, the wandering tramp. It's something we saw just 2 songs ago on this album, and we've seen in previous albums. Also, things are different here in the final stanza because he addresses her directly for the first time. If you want me to, I can be just like you. And that is a definite first, so that should catch our attention, even if, on an other than conscious level as we're listening. The rest of the song, up until this point, he's just complaining about her to us. And the final line, remember the final line is always an et rhyme. It's the only one where the line is not, she just acts like we never have met. So he has this fun twist at the end. Someone's asking him, how can you do that kind of a thing? And he says, it's easy. You just pick anyone and pretend that you never have met. Which is ironic for him to say. You see the exclamation mark there. Again, he's having fun because he spent a whole song complaining about how could she have done that to me. Now he's saying it's easy, so definite sarcasm there. And lastly, this really doesn't have to do with the song itself, but just an interesting Dylan note and coincidence. The song is called I Don't Believe You, then there's the parenthetical, she acts like we never have met. So anyway, it's called I Don't Believe You, which is the exact phrase Dylan retorted with when a fan yelled Judas. In a 1966 concert in England, yelled at him because of course he went electric. I seriously doubt Dylan realized he was quoting one of his own song titles when he said, I don't believe you, into the mic in response. And that is the video for this song. Thanks for watching.